28% of B2B marketers said they do not measure content marketing ROI. If you're just starting out, what would you give advice in terms of measuring ROI?
It goes back to what is it you're trying to accomplish, because what you measure depends on what outcomes you want. And that's a big part of it. And I think historically marketers are having a hard time because they haven't measured things before, or they say the things that we do aren't measurable. And now we do have ways to measure it, and it is different, but it makes people uncomfortable to be accountable for something when historically they haven't had to be accountable for it for a long time.
Well, I think there's also a challenge to goal setting, because since they haven't had to measure, they haven't actually created goals for everything they've done. And if you look at TV advertising, where's the ROI in that, right? Although you say some magic something tells you that you reached, 1 million viewers. Really? Are you sure? Which ones?
Yeah.
It was interesting in the workshop I did this week, one of the challenges or the exercises was to create a flow of 3 pieces in relation to a persona that each group had picked, and they had to flow together and they had to assign a goal for each piece. That was the challenging part of the whole thing. They weren't sure what to assign. Did it mean something if they assigned page views? Did it mean something if they assigned form completions, or whatever? And it was kind of like, how do we decide what goal to set for our content? Because my premise is every piece of content should have a goal.
4 years ago, we were in that same boat. I mean, I was definitely in that 28%. Publishing content without any tracking ROI, not even targeting it towards a certain persona, not even trying to figure out if it's going to drive or leave and not connecting it. And I guess over the content journey, I guess if I had any tips that you're asking for, it would be just to do it, just start, come up with a plan, but start from the basics. Define that piece of content with the persona, and then build out as Ardith just said, but then publish. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and track everything. Use Google Analytics, use your marketing automation software, whatever the CRM tool it is, so you can start building that story from page views to conversion, whether it's to the forms that you were talking about earlier, all the way through up until it gets to that sales roadblock. Or if you can track it all the way through the sales funnel. We started at the top of the funnel just to prove the concept, and it worked so well. But now we realize that when we start at the top of the funnel is not a bad problem to have. We push so many leads down to our sales pipeline now that there's a huge choke point for our sales. So each one of our sales guys is working like 400, 500 leads right now. Well, I mean, that's a huge issue. So now we've actually said everything on hold, starting at the bottom of the funnel, because we got to give them these sales tool, these persona-driven, like low-level content pieces to help them close faster.
I think one of my favorite things with you guys is that your sales team is so excited about what you're doing is they actually bring questions back. Guess what this buyer asked me? Create content for that,
Yep.
And they actually bring them back to the marketing team to drive that content.
Close that loop.
That's the
Yeah.
ideal scenario, right?
It is,
Yeah.
and then we publish it, and I can say, here you go, here's a video, here's an article, here's whatever.
Yep.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I think in terms of tips that I would give, it would be, I love tackling low-hanging fruit, right? If you've got somebody who's showing strong signs of great interest in your product solutions, whatnot, start with those guys, because usually there are more clear conversion opportunities there to show, hey, you know what, we put this content in front of them, and those that we didn't put that content in front of, like, we were able to sort of move them through that purchase or drive that conversion. So I think it's easier at the bottom of the funnel, and also, if you've got customers already there, it's like low-hanging fruit. I think at the top of the funnel and more of the sort of broad storytelling is harder to describe what value you're creating. You want to drive that attention, that engagement, and there are ways to measure that. They look different than the traditional conversion metrics. So just be clear about what you're trying to do. You're either essentially trying to convert and move somebody through and help them make a decision and buy something, or you're really trying to engage them and ultimately build a story around your brand and strengthen it.
Start where it hurts the worst, hurts the most. Where is it that people are struggling? Is it marketers to get people to understand the brand, to better prepare people for those first conversations? Is it, like you said, Skylar, is it a hard time converting then at the end? So start where it hurts the most, and then look at where do you have the gaps too.
So it's such a great point. Start where it hurts the most. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it hurts internal. So sometimes you have to build that persona to first internal your or your executive, whoever your roadblock is internally, to start publishing correctly. With that new content marketing approach. But I think after you clear that hurdle, then you can kind of take an outward approach. So a lot of other B2B marketers and kind of in our space have that internal hurdle that a lot of people don't understand.